The Toyota Corolla used to be ubiquitous. They were everywhere. In 2006, Toyota sold almost 400,000 of them. And then the compact crossover got hot. And by 2022, suddenly the RAV4 was the one selling 400,000 units. So it's okay if you've forgotten a bit about the Toyota Corolla. This is one right here. It's a hybrid. It actually has all-wheel drive, and it's supposed to get 47 miles per gallon in the city. Last year, if you wanted a Corolla Hybrid, you were buying a front-wheel drive LE model. That was the only option. For 2023, Toyota has expanded the trim lineup to include the SE XLE, the SE Infrared Edition, and all-wheel drive versions of the LE SE and SE Infrared. This is an SE all-wheel drive trim, and personally, I think it looks pretty handsome. The headlights have a nice wraparound design, and our SE trim's front end with its black mesh grille looks, dare I say it, a little sporty. Styling is much more conventional down the side, but at the back, things do kick up again. Yeah, the taillights are pretty bland, but I like how this black trim piece splits the trunk with the upper half jutting out a bit more for a more aerodynamic shape. Take a look at this. It's a single exhaust pipe, sure, but it has dual chrome tips. And that's a little bit of trickery, but I like it. Our test car has 18-inch wheels. It's wild how even a Corolla can wear 18s these days like it's no big deal. And then down the side, we have this blacked out rocker trim to add a little extra flair. And you know what else has a little extra flair? The CarGurus YouTube channel. So don't forget to subscribe. We've got a button right here. Unless you're on your phone, then it's somewhere over there. Inside, we are back to the basics. The Corolla gets criticized a bit for being more of an appliance than a car, and the interior of this Corolla has all the excitement of a KitchenAid stand mixer. Now don't get me wrong, those stand mixers are incredibly helpful, and I personally love mine, but we're still just talking about a KitchenAid. Let's hit the highlights. Toyota covered the surfaces above the hip point with a soft touch rubber material, and it all fits together beautifully. This material will hold up better over long periods of time than hard plastic will. It's less likely to develop squeaks and it won't scuff quite as easily. I also really like the steering wheel. It's relatively small in diameter, but it has a good grip to it, and I like the layout of all the physical buttons on the wheel. Other things I like: positioning of the cup holders. I like that there's a forward tray up here for my phone, and I actually really like how the shifter feels. Most notably, the tech interface is a huge step forward. This has Toyota's new look software rather than the painfully old stuff that was in last year's Corolla. It's a big deal for this car, and we are gonna go a little deeper into it a little later in the video, so keep watching. The bad news is that, well, that's pretty much it. I mean, look at this, and then look at the interior of a 2023 Hyundai Elantra. Where's all the fun and the games and the quirks and the gimmicks? I mean, sure, there is something to be said about the utilitarian functionalism of the Corolla. But when you strip out all the style, you're left with something pretty bleak. It's a hybrid. There's no engine when you turn it on. Here we go. But let's not take our eye off the ball here. This is still a Corolla, and it's a hybrid. And that means that if you are shopping for this car, you are motivated by value, by reliability, and by efficiency. And let me tell you, fellas, this car is pretty efficient. With all-wheel drive, we should be getting 47 mpg in the city, 41 on the highway, and 44 combined. But if we drop all-wheel drive, and if we get the LE trim with its little 16-inch wheels, those numbers balloon to 53 in the city, 46 on the highway, 50 combined. Now, I've been driving this car about 350 miles, and mostly on the highway, and also in very cold winter weather. And over the course of that test, I saw 40.1 mpg. A 1.8 liter four-cylinder is the backbone of the hybrid powertrain, which makes a total of 134 horsepower and 156 pound-feet of torque. It is not fast. In fact, it's pretty slow, and it's even slower if you deplete the hybrid system's battery, but luckily, with a little regenerative braking or some time spent sitting in traffic, you'll put the juice you need back in the battery. Output is managed by an electronic CVT that likes to claw along, especially on the highway. Honestly, this car doesn't like driving on the highway, and it really doesn't like driving on a hilly highway. It's a fine car for zipping around town where road and wind noise is kept nicely at bay, but get it up to 60 miles per hour and you gotta crank up the radio to really drown out the rest of the racket. I mean, highway driving just reveals how little insulation Toyota has stuffed in here. On a slower, more windy road, things are much better. The steering is very light, but it's not vague. It's pretty sharp, doesn't wander off center, and the suspension is surprisingly well sorted for a vehicle in the Corolla's class, assuming you don't drive really fast over some windy or broken pavement country roads, like you're driving a WRX. It's not going to do that. But it has a multi-link rear suspension that doesn't dance and get unsettled quite as easily as some of those old torsion beam suspension cars that we've driven. That said, it's not the hardest thing in the world to upset a Corolla Hybrid, but you kind of have to go out of your way to do it. This Corolla Hybrid has an electronic all-wheel drive system powered by an extra electric motor mounted on the rear axle. However, that extra motor on the all-wheel drive models doesn't add any power to the equation. But still, all-wheel drive is this vehicle's trump card, even more than its price or its value or its reputation for reliability. And better yet, it's a pretty good all-wheel drive system. I took the Corolla up to Vermont this past weekend to do some skiing after about 10 inches of fresh snow. I didn't have any problem getting up there. Folks shopping for a Corolla expect it to be reasonably priced, and they expect it to last a long time. What they likely don't expect is all-wheel drive capability. To get an all-wheel drive car at this price, you have to look at a Mazda or a Subaru, and critically, neither of those brands sell their options with hybrid powertrains. Last year's old touchscreen software has been swapped out for this new system. There are a few physical changes. For instance, the buttons that used to flank either side of the screen have been removed. Those are now icons in the touchscreen, and we also lost the tuning knob, which was here. I'm not a huge fan of either of those decisions. However, everything else, basically everything else, is a huge upgrade. The interface looks slick, way better than the old stuff. There's also better natural language voice commands. You can use it to set navigation, to change the climate controls, or adjust your music. Hey Toyota, that's all you have to say to wake it up. Hey Toyota, play Fish Radio. And there we go. It even knew to spell it with a PH. Amazing. If you're like me, you'll spend most of your time driving with Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. You can also use it to link your Apple Music or Amazon Music accounts, assuming you pay for the 4G Wi-Fi hotspot. There's also HD radio, Sirius XM, you have to pay for that subscription, and 4 USB-C ports. There's some new safety tech too. The Corolla Hybrid now comes standard with Toyota Safety Sense 3.0. It includes pretty much all of the standard advanced driver assistance systems. You can see them listed in the driver information display here, but it doesn't come standard with blind spot monitoring or rear cross traffic alert. You have to pay extra for those. Being a sedan, you don't get quite the same headroom or legroom in the back that you'd get out of a crossover. Being a compact sedan, well, you don't really get much headroom or legroom at all. I'm 5'11" and I'm cramped. There's only 34.8 inches of legroom in the back of the Corolla Hybrid as opposed to 38 in the Elantra Hybrid. Headroom is a bit closer at 37.1 inches to 37.3, but what I'm saying is, if you're tall, you probably don't want to spend a lot of time in the back of any compact sedan. The trunk is small too, 13.1 cubic feet, falls short of the Elantra, and also the Honda Civic, the Nissan Sentra, and the Volkswagen Jetta. It's closest in size to the Mazda 3, not a car known for being overly spacious. Ultimately, most shoppers are going to look at the Toyota Corolla Hybrid because of its value. Including its $1,095 destination fee, this car starts at $23,895. That is for a front-wheel drive LE trim. Our SE all-wheel drive trim starts at $27,735. Now again, that includes destination. If you tack on a few options like we have here, our as-tested price comes in at $30,404. For the 2023 model year, Toyota lowered the price of the Corolla Hybrid's base trim by $1,250, and it's a good thing they did, because it makes this car much more competitive. You see, the Hyundai Elantra Hybrid starts now at $25,665, including destination. Now granted, the Elantra Hybrid does have a much nicer interior, but it's not available with all-wheel drive, and that makes the Corolla Hybrid all-wheel drive a bit of a Goldilocks in the segment. You see, it is affordable, it is efficient, and it's a safer bet for driving in wintry weather. Now, as far as I know, there's only one other car on the market that can boast that trio of features, and it's another Toyota. The all-new Prius looks better, it's more powerful, returns better fuel economy, and it has more cargo space. It also offers all-wheel drive, but it's not priced as competitively. It starts at $28,545, including destination. What do you think? Do you go with the new Prius, or is the Corolla Hybrid the better value? Let us know in the comments section below. We genuinely want to hear from you. As always, thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the CarGurus YouTube channel, and we'll see you next time.